You want to see your kid again, right? Then you better do exactly what I say, starting by removing that top. And what I want, since I've never been with a black woman, is for you to take off your top right now. The chilling demand, a sickening cocktail of malice and power, hung in the air of the squad car, a vile whisper in the otherwise silent suburban street. It was the terrifying climax of a routine traffic stop that had spiraled into a nightmare of racist aggression and criminal blackmail. Just moments before, Officer Hayes, a man whose casual bigotry had escalated into overt abuse, had planted drugs in her car and now held her freedom and her son's well-being hostage. She was a professional and upstanding citizen, a mother pulled over for a baseless reason, and now subjected to a cruel display of pure evil. She was trapped, alone, and facing a choice that no one should ever have to make. But what Officer Hayes didn't know was that he wasn't just targeting a random woman. He was targeting a person with a power far greater than his own, a power that was about to turn his entire world upside down. Before we dive into this chilling tale of a bigoted cop and a mother's refusal to break, if you believe in standing up for what's right and exposing corruption, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that inspire. And before we go back to the very beginning, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. We'd love to know. Jessica Vance had a perfectly ordinary afternoon planned. The sun was warm, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves as she drove through the quiet, tree-lined streets of her suburban neighborhood. The windows were down, the faint sound of a children's sing-along from her car stereo mingling with the chirping of birds. It was 3 p.m., and she was on her way to pick up her 5-year-old son, Noah, from daycare. She didn't live in this neighborhood. Her license showed an address a few towns over, but she worked nearby, and Noah's daycare was the best in the area, so she made the daily drive. She was on a hands-free call, laughing with her sister, Jasmine, about a funny story Noah had told that morning. The mundane joy of the moment made the sudden flash of red and blue in her rearview mirror a jarring intrusion. "Shoot," Jessica said, her tone immediately shifting from carefree to mildly annoyed. "Looks like I'm getting pulled over. I'll call you back as soon as I can, Jazz." She ended the call and put her phone down, her hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, her calm demeanor a professional habit. The squad car stopped behind her, and a white officer, a man with a tired, jaded look and a mustache that seemed to droop with disdain, approached her window. His name tag read, Hayes. "Hi, officer," Jessica said, her voice polite and even. "Did I do something wrong?" Officer Hayes peered into the car, his gaze lingering for a moment too long. "You're driving and touching your cell phone at the same time. You can't do that." "I'm sorry, officer," she replied calmly, "but it's on hands-free. I'm not touching it." She gestured to the car's Bluetooth system. Hayes scowled, his initial accusation deflated. "Quiet. Do not talk back to me." "Excuse me, sir," she said, her tone now carrying a slight edge. "I didn't say anything wrong. I was just clarifying." "Shoe your trap," he snapped, his voice rising, the professional facade gone. "And give me your license and registration." Slowly. "Smells like weed in here." His nose crinkled in theatrical disgust. "Officer, I don't smoke," Jessica stated, her tone firm. "There's no way you're smelling that in my car." "Yeah, right," Hayes sneered, his eyes narrowed, his gaze sweeping over her. "You're black. All of you people do it." The blatant racism was a punch to the gut, but Jessica was trained for this. She took a deep breath. "Whoa, that's extremely racist, and you shouldn't be talking to me like that. I'm just a mom on her way to pick up her son." "Shut it! I'm so tired of you people," he spat, his face reddening. Always with the attitude, always the victim. "Sir, you seriously need to stop," Jessica said, her voice now firm and authoritative. "Don't give me orders," he barked, his face inches from her window. "You just won't stop talking, will you? Get out of the vehicle right now." Jessica's heart began to pound. She knew where this was going. "Officer, please, I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't even know why you're pulling me over." "You're talking back to a cop," he retorted, puffing his chest out. "Driving around this neighborhood looking suspicious. Out of the car. Now!" Jessica made a final desperate plea. "Please, I'm here to pick up my son from daycare. It's just a few blocks away. This isn't right." "Step out now, you stupid criminal. You look suspicious driving around on your cell phone, so I stopped. And now you're resisting a lawful order. Out!" What would you do in Jessica's situation? Would you fight back, or would you try to de-escalate? Share your thoughts in the comments. Jessica, realizing her pleas were falling on deaf ears, slowly exited the vehicle. He ordered her to the back of the car, and with a feigned meticulousness, he began to search the trunk. As he rummaged through her neatly organized bags, his hand furtively slipped into his own pocket, a small plastic baggie of white powder clutched in his palm. In one swift, practiced motion, he dropped the baggie into an obscure corner of her trunk. Aha! He exclaimed triumphantly, pulling the baggie out and holding it up for her to see. Just as I thought. I'm glad I followed my gut. Looks like a felony narcotics charge to me. His face was a mask of smug satisfaction. Jessica's mouth went dry. Her mind raced, a torrent of panic threatening to overwhelm her. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was a career-ending, life-altering setup. Officer, no. You know that's not mine. I don't even know what that is. Save it for the judge, he said, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. But instead of putting them on her, he took a step closer, his voice dropping to a low, sinister whisper. He reached over and, with a quick click, turned off his body camera. The small red light on his uniform went dark. Have you ever been in a situation where you knew someone was lying but felt powerless to prove it? What happened? He stared at her, a predatory glint in his eye, and the full, horrifying depth of his plan became clear. He licked his lips. You know, I could call this in right now, and you'd lose everything. Your kid, your job, everything. But I'm a generous man. His voice was a low growl. We can make this all go away. You want to see your kid again, right? Then you better do exactly what I say, starting by removing your top right now. The audacity of his demand was so shocking, so utterly depraved, that Jessica felt a cold wave of revulsion wash over her. It was a vile, inhumane proposition that reduced her to nothing more than an object. But the threat, the mention of her son, was a venomous poison that tried to break her spirit. She was a mother, and her son was her world. But she was also a woman of strength, a detective with years of training in resilience and self-preservation. She looked him straight in the eye, refusing to flinch. I will not, she said, her voice trembling slightly but firm. I will not do that. Officer Hayes' face twisted in fury. He had expected her to be terrified, to comply out of desperation. Her refusal was an insult to his perceived authority. Fine, he roared, grabbing her arm and roughly twisting it behind her back. He slapped the handcuffs on her wrists with a painful snap. Resisting arrest and felony possession. You're going away for a long time, you filthy animal. He shoved her into the back of his squad car, ignoring her protests. As he drove to the station, he made a false report, claiming to have caught another addict on the street. He was gleeful, his arrogance blinding him to the bigger picture. He parked the car, dragged her out, and marched her into the precinct. He filled out the necessary paperwork with a smug grin, then walked her to the holding cells. He threw her into a dank, grimy cell, slamming the metal door shut with a loud clank. Enjoy your stay, he sneered through the bars. I'll be back to process you later. As he turned to leave, ready to go back out and continue his day of fighting crime, a voice cut through the air. Hayes, my office. Now. It was Captain Reynolds, a seasoned veteran with a reputation for being tough but fair. He stood in the doorway of his office, a strange, almost amused smile on his face. Officer Hayes, his heart swelling with pride, believed he was being called in for commendation. He straightened his uniform and walked briskly to the captain's office, a swagger in his step. Captain, he said, still smiling, I just booked a real winner. Caught her with a bag of white. Captain Reynolds held up a hand. Save it, Hayes. I've been hearing rumors about you, a few complaints here and there, racially profiling citizens, making up charges. I have to ask you, is any of it true? Officer Hayes' smile vanished, replaced by a look of feigned outrage. Captain, no. Of course not. I would never do such a thing. I'm a good cop. I just arrested a black woman for narcotics. What more proof do you need? Just then, the door to the captain's office swung open. A figure walked in, her stride confident and her gaze fixed on Officer Hayes. It was the woman he had just thrown in a cell, but she wasn't wearing her street clothes anymore. She was wearing a perfectly tailored dark pantsuit, and around her neck, hanging from a shiny metal chain, was an official police badge. Officer Hayes' face went pale, a deep, sickening dread spreading through him. He stared at the woman, then at the captain, then at the badge, his mouth agape. The woman, Jessica Vance, walked to the captain's desk, a look of steely determination on her face. Jessica, thank you for coming in, the captain said, his smile returning. He turned to Hayes, his expression now grave. Hayes, meet Detective Vance. She's from the 6th Precinct's Internal Affairs. I asked her for a favor, Hayes. I asked her to drive through your patrol area to see if the rumors about you were true. And well, you failed the test spectacularly. Hayes stumbled backward, his back hitting the wall, the full weight of his colossal mistake crashing down on him. His life, his career, his freedom, all of it was gone, thanks to his own brazen racism and criminal actions. He had been so blinded by his prejudice that he didn't see the trap. The woman he had tried to humiliate, intimidate, and bribe was not just a mom. She was a detective, and she had just exposed him for the corrupt animal he was. Captain Reynolds' voice was cold and precise. Officer Hayes, you are hereby relieved of your duties as a police officer. Turn over your weapon and your badge. He then looked directly at Jessica. Detective Vance, you can do the honors. Jessica Vance, her face betraying no emotion, unclipped the handcuffs from her belt. She walked over to Hayes, whose face was a mask of utter despair and shock. She grabbed his wrist and, with a final, deliberate click, put the handcuffs on him. As she led him out of the office and through the precinct, his head was bowed, his disgrace complete. The mother, who had refused to break, had just ensured that a corrupt cop's reign of terror was over. If you believe in the power of integrity and the importance of holding the corrupt accountable, please like and subscribe to our channel to hear more stories that inspire change and champion justice.